Cremated the next day on their ancestral land. The entire village gathered in silence. His elderly father and brother lit the funeral pyres. The accident caused public anger. On social media, people questioned the safety of Indian highways. Some said that even the safest cars can't protect you if roads are dangerous and traffic rules are ignored. The Volvo XC90 has had 0 recorded fatal crashes in the UK since 2002, but even that level of safety couldn't protect this family from a heavy container falling from above. Police later said no vehicle could have survived that impact. Road safety experts and public figures pointed to common issues: poor driving habits, lack of enforcement, unsafe truck operations as key problems. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari admitted that over 178,000 people lost their lives in road accidents last year alone, most of them young adults. What happened to Chandram and his family shows just how unsafe some roads have become. It wasn't carelessness on their part. It was a chain of dangerous conditions: bad driving, lack of barriers, and poor enforcement that ended 6 innocent lives in seconds. It was February 17, 2021 in Los Angeles, California. Monique Munoz, a 32-year-old woman, had just finished her workday. She was a receptionist with hopes of becoming a lawyer. Her family said she was smart, kind, and driven. That evening she got into her silver Lexus and started driving home, but she never made it. Around 5 p.m. at the intersection of Olympic Boulevard and Overland Avenue, a Lamborghini Aventador SVJ was speeding down the road, going over 100 miles per hour. Behind the wheel was Brendan Curry, a 17-year-old who had been given the car by his father, James Curry, a wealthy businessman with companies linked to Amazon. The Lamborghini, worth over $500,000, had been a birthday gift. As Monique waited at the light, Brendan's car crashed into hers. The impact was violent. Her vehicle was nearly split in two. Witnesses said it looked like a movie scene. Monique died on the spot. She never had a chance to escape. Brendan was hospitalized with a brain injury. As news of the crash spread, police began investigating. LAPD Detective James Dixon confirmed Brendan had been driving at 106 miles per hour. Witnesses also said another car, an Audi, may have been racing the Lamborghini. The Audi was found at the scene but hadn't struck anything. That part of the case remains open. Despite the seriousness of the crash, no charges were filed at first. Weeks passed, and the silence caused public anger. Many believed Brendan was being protected because of his father's wealth. James Curry lived in an $8 million mansion and often shared photos of luxury cars and jets online. In one deleted post, he and Brendan posed in front of a gold Lamborghini captioned, "Lambo Europe versus SVJ, father versus son. I have to win, but if I lose, I still have my son." After the crash, protests formed at the intersection. People demanded justice for Monique. Her mother Carol posted, "My baby, my life, my everything. My heart is broken. Mommy will miss you so much." Her stepfather Isaac Cardona said she had a heart of gold and called the crash senseless. In court, Monique's cousin Cynthia Crespin said, "House arrest in a mansion is not punishment." Brendan was finally arrested in March, 1 month after the crash. The district attorney didn't say whether he would be tried as a minor or adult. In April, Brendan pleaded guilty to felony vehicular manslaughter with gross negligence in juvenile court. During the hearing, Brendan and his mother cried. His lawyer said he was deeply sorry and accepted full responsibility. Brendan addressed Monique's family, saying he had acted selfishly and now understood their pain. But Monique's family felt it wasn't enough. Her uncle, Richard Cartier, called the sentence a lollipop sentence, adding that real justice would be prison. Brendan was placed on home confinement while awaiting sentencing. If tried as a juvenile, he faced up to 9 months. If tried as an adult, it could have been up to 6 years. In the end, Judge Sabina Helton gave him the maximum under juvenile law, 7 to 9 months in a youth detention camp, which focuses on counseling and education. Monique's family believed this was not enough. Judge Helton herself said Brendan showed a pattern of not taking responsibility and questioned his parents' ability to discipline him. Later, it was revealed that Brendan had a history of reckless driving. He had posted about speeding and had his license suspended in Beverly Hills. His father often encouraged this behavior online. James Curry later apologized publicly to Monique's family, admitting he had waited too long to speak. But many saw the apology as too late and likely made under pressure. Talks of a financial settlement followed, but details were kept private. Even though Brendan's injury was serious, the Munoz family and their supporters continued to demand accountability. Many saw this as a clear example of how money and privilege influenced justice. Monique was more than a headline. She was a sister, daughter, and friend who had dreams she never got to reach. Her life ended because of a decision made in seconds, and her family is still living with that pain.
Oh, no.
It was July 3rd, 2025, just after midnight on a quiet road along the A52 highway near Ternasilla, a small town in northern Spain. Diogo Jota, a 28-year-old forward for Liverpool and the Portuguese national team, was driving with his younger brother, 25-year-old Andre Silva. They were on their way to Santander to catch a ferry to the UK, where Jota was expected to return for Liverpool's pre-season training. Jota had recently been advised by doctors not to fly due to a lung procedure. Instead, he decided to travel by road and sea. Their ferry was scheduled to leave Santander at 4 p.m. and stay. It was a careful decision made for his health, but just 10 miles after crossing into Spain from Portugal, things went terribly wrong. At around 12:35 a.m., the Lamborghini Huracan. They were in lost control while overtaking another vehicle. Reports later said that a tire may have burst during the maneuver. The car swerved, hit a barrier, flipped several times, and caught fire. The surrounding dry vegetation also went up in flames. Emergency calls came in right away. Firefighters, traffic police, and medical teams from the Mamboy Health Center rushed to the scene. But by the time they arrived, the vehicle was fully destroyed by fire. Both Diogo and Andre were found inside and had already lost their lives. At 8 a.m., the Portuguese Football Federation confirmed the news. Almost instantly, the football world went into shock. Diogo Jota had just come off one of the best seasons of his career. He helped Liverpool win the 2024-25 Premier League title, scoring 6 goals in 26 matches. A few weeks earlier, he had played in the Nations League final and helped Portugal win against Spain in a penalty shootout. Only 11 days before the accident, Jota had married his longtime partner, Ruth Cardoso. They had 3 young children. On June 22nd, they celebrated their wedding in Porto. His final Instagram post was from that day, where he called himself the luckiest man in the world. Ruth replied, "My dream come true." That moment would be one of the last shared with the public. Diogo and Andre were the only children of Joaquim and Isabel Silva. Diogo had changed his surname to Jota for his football career, while Andre kept the family name. Andre was also a professional player, competing for Penafiel in Portugal's second division. As the news spread, tributes came in from around the world. Cristiano Ronaldo posted, "It doesn't make sense. Just now we were together. My thoughts are with your family." Liverpool FC released a statement expressing their heartbreak and pledged support to the family. Fans gathered at Anfield, leaving flowers, scarves, and notes. The club lowered its flags and closed its facilities for the day. Former manager Jurgen Klopp shared that he was struggling to understand the loss. Arne Slot, the new coach, said, "It was supposed to be a dream summer." Players like Harvey Elliott and Jamie Carragher described Jota as kind and hardworking. David De Gea said, "Sometimes life is very cruel." UEFA held a moment of silence before Portugal's women's match. President Alexander Seferin remembered giving Jota a medal just weeks earlier. Clubs across Europe sent condolences. Portugal's president Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa said Jota's passing left the country in grief. At Liverpool, a book of condolence was opened. Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes said Diogo was irreplaceable. By the time of his passing, Jota had scored 65 goals in 182 games for Liverpool and 14 goals in 49 games for Portugal. Their funeral was scheduled in Gondomar, the same neighborhood where they had just celebrated the wedding. Now a farewell. 2 brothers gone far too soon.
Oh, jeez.
It was June 25th, 2012, in Stockport, Greater Manchester. 58-year-old Graham Padmore had planned a special surprise. His son Mark was turning 21. Mark had cerebral palsy, and Graham wanted to give him a memory he'd never forget. To celebrate, he rented a Lamborghini Gallardo Spider, an expensive car worth about £150,000. He also arranged access to a closed-off airfield at Woodford Aerodrome, so they could enjoy a high-speed drive in a safe place. This wasn't the first time the Padmore celebrated birthdays with luxury cars. It had become a tradition, but this time things would not go as planned. That morning, Graham's wife Georgina and their daughters, Helen and Claire, joined them at the airfield to watch. The idea was simple. Graham would take Mark for a fast drive down the runway with the top down. It was supposed to be exciting, fun, and safe. Witnesses said both Graham and Mark looked happy as the car passed the viewing area. They were smiling as the Lamborghini roared down the runway at around 100 miles per hour. On a long, clear runway, it seemed like nothing could go wrong. But shortly after the pass, something felt off. James Fletcher, who worked with Avro Heritage and had given Graham permission to use the airfield, noticed that Graham had not started braking where he should have. He later said out loud, "He should have been braking at that point." Then, without warning, the car vanished from sight. There were no tire screeches or signs of panic, just silence. Everyone rushed to follow the car's tire marks. The tracks went beyond the runway, through grass, across 2 fences, over a concrete barrier, and down a 20-foot embankment. The car had flipped and landed upside down in a nearby farmhouse garden. Mark was still in the passenger seat, trapped but held by the car's safety restraints. Graham had been thrown around 30 feet from the vehicle. He was lying on his back, partly awake and trying to move. Fletcher, afraid the car might catch fire, pulled Mark out and stayed with him until help arrived. Emergency services came quickly. The wreck was described by a nearby birdwatcher as completely destroyed. He said it was hard to believe anyone had survived. Mark, incredibly, only had some bruises, but Graham's injuries were much more serious. He had major damage to his head and chest. He was taken to Wythenshawe Hospital in critical condition. 4 days later, Graham passed away. His family was devastated. Graham was known as a careful and loving father. Georgina later said, "He was always cautious. He always wore his seatbelt. He would never risk Mark's safety." But during the inquest, a difficult fact came out. Graham had not been wearing his seatbelt at the time of the crash. The reason reason for this was unclear. The family believed he might have planned to get out of the car before the run and simply forgot to put the belt back on. The investigation found no alcohol, no racing, and no reckless behavior. It was just a straight-line drive meant to be fun. PC Mark Dickman, a collision expert, confirmed the car was working fine, but he explained that supercars take longer to stop than people expect, especially if the driver isn't used to them. A small mistake in judgment can have serious consequences. In Graham's case, it proved fatal. At Stockport Coroner's Court, the coroner listed his death as accidental, caused by multiple injuries. He added that Graham might have survived if he had worn his seatbelt. Greater Manchester Police launched a full investigation. Sergeant Danny Byrne said, "We are still collecting information. Our thoughts are with Graham's family. For Graham's wife and children, Claire, Helen, Catherine, and Mark, the loss was overwhelming." Georgina said, "He just wanted to make his family happy. What was supposed to be a joyful birthday gift turned into something no one could have imagined. There was no crime, no dangerous racing, just one misstep in a powerful car by a father who wanted to make his son's day special. Now that day is remembered for a heartbreaking reason."
Mulga Sue, the beanie's on fire. Poo 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 poo. If any, yeah, I don't know, if it's a father that's having catastrophic injuries. These supercars, they take longer to stop, yeah. They take longer to come to a stop. Especially if you're not used to them. I know, if any, the driver, he wasn't wearing his seatbelt. He might have planned to take it off. He might have planned to get out and he just simply forgot to put it back on. As if I put itself on, and did he go on there? That's really hard. Schließe, nein, Alexander sein Schwein, Mauge, so, what the fuck? Oopsies. Okay, let's stop that nonsense. Direkt die Schrittbärste unter dem Drumset und die Hunde. Und so jetzt die tolle Bauch, But yeah, I mean, because football fights, fights at football stadiums, they happen, they happen numerous times. But I've never heard of a football fights at a stadium where people go tear toilet bowls out of bathrooms and start chucking them. I've never heard of that before. I mean, toilet bowls, that is not something you should throw, especially at a human being, at a person, because they're literally solid porcelain. If that hits someone in the head, it can kill them, because it's solid porcelain, for God's sake. You don't just throw that at someone. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking. It was all because it was a football fight, and fight disturbing child deaths caused by their own parents. Excuse me.
Parents are supposed to protect their children, but sometimes they become the cause of their. Parents are supposed to protect their children, but sometimes they become the cause of their worst nightmares. In this video, we'll look at 5 real cases where children lost their lives at the hands of their own parents. These are disturbing stories that shocked communities and left lasting scars.
It's a complete the fact that they
It was 2024
toilet balls out of the bathroom.
China. A family of 3 was about to experience an event that would change their lives forever. Zhao, a father who had been drinking earlier that evening, made a decision that led to the loss of his 6-month-old daughter. That day started like any other for Zhao, his wife Huang, and their baby. They had dinner together before returning home. Zhao had been drinking, and by the time they arrived, he was intoxicated. Huang left the baby in his care while she took care of housework. As their daughter cried, Zhao, lying on the couch, didn't respond. Frustrated, Huang confronted it, and a heated argument broke out. In the middle of this, Zhao stood up holding the baby and walked toward the living room window. Trying to comfort his daughter, he rocked her back and forth. But because of his drunken state, his grip loosened. In an instant, the baby slipped from his hands and fell from the 6th floor window. The room fell silent. Huang, realizing what had happened, rushed downstairs. She found her daughter unconscious on the ground. Panicked, Zhao quickly placed the baby in the car and drove to the nearest hospital. But despite their efforts, doctors couldn't save her. She was pronounced dead on arrival due to severe injuries from the fall. Hospital staff immediately reported the case to the police. When officers arrived, Huang accused Zhao of intentionally causing their daughter's death. Zhao was taken into custody, and an investigation began. At first, Zhao faced serious criminal charges. However, he claimed it was a tragic accident. He explained that his hands had become slippery while rocking the baby, and he had no intention of harming her. Huang, despite her initial accusation, defended her husband. She told investigators that while Zhao drank often, he was always caring toward their daughter. In fact, on the same day, he had bought toys for her. After reviewing the case, the court determined that Zhao had no intention of causing harm. While his actions were reckless, they found no evidence of malice. The fact that he rushed his daughter to the hospital showed that he had panicked and tried to save her. Because of this, his charge was reduced, and he was convicted of manslaughter instead. Zhao received a 4-year prison sentence. This ruling sparked widespread debate. Many believed the punishment was too lenient, arguing that the loss of a child due to a parent's negligence should carry a harsher penalty. Others, however, pointed out that Zhao had already suffered a great personal loss, and further punishment wouldn't bring his daughter back. This case isn't an isolated incident. In recent years, similar tragedies have occurred in China due to parental negligence, often without legal consequences. In 2021, a 3-year-old girl was left inside a car for 5 hours and lost her life due to the extreme heat. In another case, a father left his 4-year-old daughter alone by the sea while he went back to his car. The child was swept away by the waves, and her body wasn't found for 2 weeks. Despite these tragedies, the parents in both cases weren't legally punished. Zhao's case reignited discussions about parental responsibility. Legal experts, such as lawyer Jiang Xinian, argued that children are not the property of their parents and should be protected by stricter laws. When a parent's negligence leads to harm, there should be consequences to prevent similar incidents. Zhao's 4-year sentence left many questioning if justice had truly been served. Some felt the punishment didn't reflect the gravity of what had happened. Others believed that Zhao, as a grieving father, had already endured enough. The case raised difficult questions. Should parents who lose a child due to their own carelessness face stricter penalties, or should the law consider their grief as punishment enough? This tragedy also highlights the consequences of poor decisions. What if Zhao hadn't been drinking that night? What if he had controlled his emotions during the argument? Would his daughter still be alive today? Zhao's daughter's death is a heartbreaking example of how a single moment of negligence can lead to irreversible loss. It also raises ongoing debates about responsibility, accountability, and how the law should handle such cases. As discussions continue, one fact remains: a young life is lost, and a family is left to live with the pain.
It's out of stock at Chemist Warehouse. I don't have it.
On June 5th, 2024, in Darlington County, Durham, what started as a normal evening for the Vickers family took a devastating turn. Simon Vickers, 50, his partner Sarah Hall, and their 14-year-old daughter Scarlett were at home together. Sarah was cooking spaghetti bolognese while Simon and Scarlett playfully tossed objects at each other in the kitchen. It was a moment of laughter and fun until everything changed. Around 11 p.m., emergency services were called to their home on Geneva Road. Paramedics arrived at a horrific scene. Scarlett was on the kitchen floor suffering from a severe wound to her chest. Despite their best efforts, she did not survive. The once playful atmosphere had turned into a nightmare. Simon Vickers claimed it was all a terrible accident. He told police that he and Scarlett had been joking around when he threw a knife without realizing what would happen. According to him, the knife somehow struck Scarlett's chest, leading to the fatal injury. But investigators quickly questioned his version of events.
He's still alive.
Scarlett's wound was 11 centimeters deep,
1936, he's 89.
piercing her heart. The injury was far too precise to have been caused by a thrown knife. A forensic examination by Dr. Jennifer Bolton confirmed this, explaining that kitchen knives are not designed to be thrown, and that such a deep wound could only have occurred if the knife had been held firmly in someone's hand. The blade had pierced Scarlett's pajama top, entered her lungs, and struck her heart, causing rapid blood loss. Simon insisted it was an accident. During the investigation, he admitted to drinking 4 glasses of wine and smoking cannabis earlier that evening, but denied any intention of harming his daughter. His partner Sarah backed his claim, stating that the incident was just a playback on road. However, forensic scientist Jim Eston examined the knife and found that the wound was consistent with a stabbing motion, not an object being thrown. The evidence suggested an intentional act rather than a mistake. During the trial, Simon maintained his innocence. He described the evening as lighthearted and insisted that he loved his daughter. But the prosecution argued otherwise, pointing to the forensic evidence that contradicted his explanation. Scarlett was well loved by friends, family, and her school community. Described as kind and respectful, she posted a TikTok video just hours before her death, smiling in front of her mirror with the caption, "Ignore the rest, please." No one could have imagined that this would be her last post. Jurors deliberated for over 13 hours before reaching a verdict. Simon Vickers was found guilty. His claim of an accident was rejected, and the evidence showed that the wound could not have happened as he described. Upon his arrest, he reportedly told officers that he must be the unluckiest man in the world. Despite the conviction, the motive behind Simon's actions remained unclear. He had no history of violence, and there were no known family issues.
$49.
Superintendent Craig Rudd of Durham Police stated that only Simon knew exactly what happened, as Simon Vickers was sentenced to life in prison. The community mourned the loss of Scarlett. Her mother, Sarah, faced the unbearable pain of losing her only child. In a statement, she described her grief as unreal, struggling to comprehend the tragic loss. The case left many unanswered questions. What led to that moment? Could this have been prevented? Why did Simon take an action that changed everything? While these questions may never be fully answered, one thing remains certain. Scarlett's life was cut short far too soon, leaving behind a void that can never be filled.
Out of stock as well.
It was April 25th, 2017 in Myerstown, Pennsylvania, when a heartbreaking tragedy struck the Dwyer family, leaving them devastated. A moment of desperation led to a decision that cost them their young son's life. Ewan Francis Dwyer was just 2 years old when he passed away in his crib. What happened was not an accident, but the result of a dangerous choice made out of frustration. Ewan was born on Christmas Day in 2014, alongside his identical twin sisters, Avery and Claire. The triplets arrived a few weeks early, and while Ewan needed temporary breathing support, he was soon healthy enough to go home. His parents, Justin Dwyer and Courtney Stash, were overjoyed to see their children growing up together. But raising 3 toddlers at once was exhausting. One of their biggest challenges was Ewan's habit of climbing out of his crib. No matter what they tried, he always found a way to escape. Fearing for his safety, Justin and Courtney grew desperate to stop him. Instead of transitioning Ian to a toddler bed or seeking guidance, they decided on a drastic solution. They placed a mattress over his crib and secured it with bungee cords. To make sure it stayed in place, they added 50-pound bags of rock salt on top. Their goal was to keep Ewan inside, but they didn't realize they had turned his crib into a trap. On the night of April 25th, Ewan once again tried to climb out, but this time he became stuck. The weight of the mattress pinned him down, leaving him unable to breathe. By the time his parents checked on him, it was too late. They called 911, but nothing could be done to save him. At first, Justin and Courtney didn't mention the mattress setup to authorities. It was only later, when Ian's 8-year-old half-brother spoke to investigators, that the truth came out. He revealed that his parents had placed the mattress over the crib to prevent Ian from getting out. He also overheard them discussing how the mattress had trapped Ian that night. An autopsy confirmed that that Ian's passing was due to suffocation. Investigators soon uncovered the full details of the situation. The parents had been so focused on stopping Ian from climbing out that they ignored the dangers of their solution. The weight of the mattress and rock salt created an unsafe environment that no toddler could escape from. Justin and Courtney were later charged with involuntary manslaughter, aggravated assault, and endangering the welfare of a child. The authorities argued that their reckless decision directly caused Ewan's death. The loss of Ewan left the family shattered. His obituary described him as a fun-loving boy with a mischievous smile. He loved making his family laugh and was known for being part of the Clean Plate Club because of how much he enjoyed his meals. He was deeply loved by his parents, siblings, and extended family, making his sudden passing even more painful. As the case went to court, the community struggled to comprehend how such a tragedy could happen. It raised serious discussions about parenting choices, child safety, and the consequences of poor decision-making. Parents often face overwhelming challenges, but when frustration leads to risky solutions, the results can be devastating. Justin and Courtney had hoped to keep their son safe, but instead, their actions led to an irreversible loss. The grief of losing Ian was compounded by the realization that his passing could have been prevented. What if they had chosen a safer alternative, like transitioning him to a toddler bed? What if they had reached out for professional advice instead of making a quick decision? Could Ian still be here today if things had been handled differently? Now the family is left mourning the loss of their son, while also facing the legal consequences of their actions. A moment of frustration led to a heartbreaking mistake, one that changed their lives forever. It was a quiet Saturday night in Nashville, Tennessee, when the Radley family's life changed forever. At 9:58 p.m. on March 23, 2024, Deanne Radley made a desperate 911 call from her home on Edge Hill Avenue. What started as a normal evening had taken a devastating turn. Deanne had been searching through her purse for her keys, unaware that a loaded .40 caliber semi-automatic pistol was inside. The gun, unholstered and mixed in with other belongings, accidentally went off. In an instant, everything changed. The bullet struck Deanne's 13-year-old daughter, Deria Radley, who had been standing nearby. Deanne heard the gunfire, turned around, and saw her daughter collapse to the floor. Panic set in as she realized what had happened. She later told reporters that she didn't know her gun was loaded in her purse. It had just gone off, and then she saw the blood. Overwhelmed with shock and fear, Deanne immediately called 911, begging for help. Within minutes, first responders arrived, rushing to provide medical aid before taking Deria to Vanderbilt's pediatric emergency room. Despite their efforts, she did not survive. Investigators quickly began piecing together what had happened. The focus was on how the firearm had discharged, while Deanne was simply searching for her keys. For Deanne, the loss was unbearable. She turned to social media, pouring out her grief in a heartbreaking post, expressing that she had lost her child and that words could not describe the pain. Later, she shared an emotional video sitting in the back seat of the car, her face wet with tears. She expressed that she wouldn't wish such pain on anyone, grieving the loss of her child. She spoke of the 13 years they had together, expressing how deeply she longed for her child to return. Her pain was clear in every word. She spoke about the deep bond she shared with Deria, calling her my twin and my heart. It was a loss no mother should have to endure. Deria's grandmother, Iris Radley. She wrote that her heart felt as though it had been ripped out of her chest and asked for prayers for her family as they were going through a difficult time. She shared the heartbreaking news that her oldest grandchild had passed away the previous night. She ended her post with a heartfelt message to her granddaughter, expressing her love. The Radley family never expected such a tragedy. Now they were faced with the painful task of planning a funeral for a child who had so much life ahead of her. To help with funeral costs, Deanne started a GoFundMe page, explaining that her 13-year-old had been accidentally shot and killed. She mentioned that she didn't have insurance to cover the burial expenses and expressed deep appreciation for any help during such painful times. By Monday, only about $300 had been raised toward the $15,000 goal. The grief weighed heavily on Deanne, and she spoke about the heartbreak in interviews with local news. She described the intense pain of losing her child, expressing that no parent would ever want to bury their child, and that her heart felt broken into a million pieces. As days passed, she struggled to come to terms with what had happened. She shared that she felt empty inside and often expressed that no one truly understands the depth of pain until they lose a child, a pain that never goes away. To those who knew Deria, she was more than just a young girl. She loved to sing and dance. She cared deeply about her family and friends. Her mother described her as beautiful, with an angel gentle voice that people would always remember. She loved school, and her bright personality touched everyone around her. This heartbreaking incident brought attention to the dangers of unsecured firearms in homes. It wasn't the first accidental shooting, and it wouldn't be the last. Firearm-related incidents, especially those involving children, have been a growing concern in the United States. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, firearms are a leading cause of death among minors. For Diane, this was an accident she never saw coming. The gun had been in her purse, and while searching for her keys, it discharged. It was a mistake that would weigh on her forever. Authorities are still investigating the case, with the Youth Services Division of the Nashville Police Department leading the inquiry. As of now, no charges have been filed. For the Radley family, there are no easy answers. The sudden loss of a child is a pain that words cannot fully describe. They are left with memories of Daria, her laughter, her love for music, and the kindness she showed to those around her. They also carry painful questions. What if the gun had been secured differently? What if Diane hadn't reached into her purse at that moment? Could this have been prevented? These questions will always linger. But for now, the Radleys continue to grieve, holding on to the love they shared with Diarrhea and the memories of the bright young girl who was taken too soon.
And she didn't know her gun was loaded. And I accidentally fired.
It was a quiet Monday morning in 2019 at the links at Sleepy Ridge Golf Course in Orem, Utah. Kellen Hill was there with his 6-year-old daughter, Aria Hill. Golfing together was their special bonding time, and Aria enjoyed being by her father's side, watching him play and riding in the golf cart. That morning, Aria sat in the cart about 20 yards away from her father. She was in her usual spot, waiting while he took his shot. But in a tragic accident, the golf ball veered unexpectedly and struck Aria in the back of her neck. The impact was severe, hitting a sensitive area at the base of her skull. Emergency services received a call at 10:25 a.m. Paramedics rushed to the scene and found Aria in critical condition. She was taken by ambulance to a nearby hospital and then airlifted to Primary Children's Hospital in Salt Lake City. Doctors did everything they could, but later that evening at 9:25 p.m., Aria passed away from her injuries. Her uncle, David Smith, spoke about the loss, describing Aria as silly, spunky, and full of life. He recalled her love for being on the golf course with her father, always soaking in the moment. Her mother, Talisa Hill, shared a heartfelt message on a GoFundMe page set up for medical and funeral expenses. She described Aria as creative, unique, and full of love, adding that she left a huge void in their hearts. The accident deeply impacted the community. Police confirmed there was no foul play. Kellen had not aimed the ball at her. It was an unpredictable and devastating incident. Lieutenant Trent College of the Orem Police Department described it as a tragic accident and said no charges would be pursued. Stephen professional performance expressed her shock, saying that nothing like this had ever happened there before. Most golf balls land far from people, making such an incident extremely rare. The GoFundMe page quickly gained support, raising over $12,000 within days. Messages of condolence poured in from the community, offering comfort to the grieving family. David Smith, who organized the fundraiser, spoke about Aria's vibrant personality. He described her as someone who could light up any room with her joy and laughter. Aria's family remembered her as a little girl who loved big girl things. She enjoyed dressing up, experimenting with makeup alongside her mother, and helping take care of her younger brothers. She had a natural ability to make people feel loved and special. As the family grieved, many wondered if anything could have been done differently to prevent the accident. Could the golf ball have gone in another direction? Was there a way to make golf courses safer for young spectators? These unanswered questions lingered in the minds of those affected. The community came together to support the Hills, offering prayers, donations, and words of comfort. Though nothing could change what happened, the overwhelming love and kindness helped the family through their unimaginable loss. Aria's story is one of deep sorrow, but also love and cherished memories. Her short life was filled with joy, and she brought happiness to those around her. While her passing was heartbreaking, the impact she had on her family and friends will always be remembered.
He never aimed the ball, just all that. But unexpectedly, of course, it hit the girl in the back of the neck, and apparently it hit a sensitive area. Which caused critical injury, yeah. They all put it in the back of the neck. It hit a sensitive area. Found in the back of the neck. It hit a sensitive area. And it caused catastrophic injuries. Venting motion. The dog was only chasing on the tennis ball, and then the recently installed barrier on the balcony and just gave way, unexpectedly gave way.
Sometimes the circumstances of
And the barrier gave way. And at the time, there was a woman in her 70s walking below. When the dog struck her in the head, and then which killed both the dog and the lady in the process, and the woman in the process. Oh my God! Another woman witnessed the ordeal. She stepped too far out into the street, and there was an oncoming bus, and the driver swerved, but he couldn't avoid hitting her, and she died as well. And of course, the guy saw all that unfold: the woman being struck in the head by the dog, and the other woman getting hit by the bus, and he just had a heart attack and died.
Some death can be both unexpected and baffling. In this video, we'll explore 5 more real stories of people who lost their lives in highly unusual ways, cases that show how unpredictable life can be. It was October 20th, 1986, when Aeroflot Flight 6502 took off from Kosovo Airport in Prelec, now called Yekaterinburg, Russia. The plane was headed for Grozny, with a scheduled stop in Samara. On board were 94 people, 87 passengers and 7 crew members. For most, it was supposed to be an ordinary flight, but what happened next turned it into one of the most shocking aviation disasters in history. The captain, Alexander was an experienced pilot, but on this flight he made a reckless decision. He placed a bet with his first officer, Gennady Zhirnov, claiming he could land the plane without looking outside, using only the aircraft's instruments. To prove his point, he ordered the cockpit windows to be covered, blocking all visibility. It was a dangerous and unnecessary risk. While pilots are trained to use instruments for navigation, landing without any visual reference is extremely difficult and not standard procedure. Despite the risk, Zhirnov agreed to the challenge. At 3:48 p.m., 2 minutes before reaching the runway, Kluviev gave the order to close the cockpit curtains. As the plane descended, alarms went off, warning that they were too close to the ground. Air traffic control instructed Kluviev to abort the landing and try again, a common safety procedure, but he ignored the warnings. With no way to properly gauge altitude or speed, the aircraft came in too fast, about 170 miles per hour, making a safe landing nearly impossible. The plane struck the runway violently, bounced, and overshot its landing zone. It then crashed off the edge, flipping upside down and bursting into flames. The fire spread rapidly, trapping many passengers. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, but the damage was severe. Of the 94 people on board, 63 died instantly, and 7 more lost their lives later due to injuries. Among those who perished was First Officer Zhirnov, who had helped passengers escape but suffered a fatal cardiac event while being transported to the hospital. Miraculously, all 14 children on board survived. Their escape was seen as a rare stroke of luck, as many adults had no way to get out in time. In the immediate aftermath, Soviet authorities tightly controlled information about the disaster. The Community for State Security, known as KGB, restricted access to the crash site, and images of the wreckage remained hidden for years. It was only thanks to Colonel A.K. Karpov, a fire department chief, that some photos were smuggled out, later revealing the full extent of the destruction. An investigation quickly determined that Klyev was solely responsible. His refusal to follow standard safety protocols led to the crash. He had ignored multiple warnings from air traffic control and the aircraft's own alarms, all for a reckless bet. The findings showed that the plane's speed and descent were completely miscalculated, making it impossible to land safely. In June 1987, Klyev was put on trial. He was convicted of violating aviation safety regulations and sentenced to 15 years in prison. However, he served only 6 years before being released. For the families of the victims, his early release was difficult to accept. As for Zhirnov, while he had participated in the ill-fated bet, his final moments were spent helping others. His death added another layer of sorrow to an already devastating event. The Aeroflot Flight 6502 tragedy remains one of the most severe examples of pilot negligence in aviation history. It raised serious concerns about overconfidence in the cockpit and the consequences of disregarding safety protocols. Had Klyev followed air traffic control's instructions? Had Zhirnov insisted they abandon the risky bet? Could the crash have been avoided? These questions remain unanswered, but they highlight the lasting impact of one poor decision. This incident stands as a reminder that even experienced pilots are not immune to critical mistakes. The lessons learned from Flight 6502 continue to influence aviation safety to this day. It was October 15, 2021, in Naucalpan de Juarez, Mexico. A young woman, estimated to be between 20 and 25 years old, decided to surprise her neighborhood with a prank. She dressed up as La Llorona, the ghostly figure from Latin American folklore, and roamed the streets, mimicking the eerie cries associated with the legend. She had always loved Halloween and wanted to entertain and spook her neighbors, but what started as a harmless joke soon took a deadly turn. La Llorona, or the Weeping Woman, is a well-known figure in Mexican culture. According to legend, she was a mother who, in a moment of despair, caused harm to her children and was condemned to roam the earth, crying out for them. Many believe hearing her mournful wails at night is an omen of misfortune. The tale has been passed down for generations, often used to warn children about the dangers of wandering off alone, especially near water. Wearing a flowing white gown and veil, the young woman walked through the San Miguel Dorami neighborhood, calling out, "Oh my children," just as the legend describes. Her voice echoed through the quiet streets, and her appearance startled residents. The sight of a ghostly figure moving in the night, crying out in sorrow, created an unsettling atmosphere. One neighbor, unsure of what they were witnessing, took out their phone and started recording. They weren't sure if it was a prank or something more sinister. The woman, unaware of the growing concern she was causing, continued her act, determined to complete her performance. However, someone in the neighborhood mistook the prank for something far more serious. Whether out of fear, confusion, or genuine panic, one resident reacted in an extreme and irreversible way. The frightened individual, believing they were in danger, grabbed a firearm and opened fire. Several shots rang out in the night. The young woman collapsed, fatally wounded. The person responsible fled the scene immediately, leaving the community in shock. Authorities arrived soon after, finding the woman's body in the street. The tragic outcome of what was supposed to be a playful scare left the neighborhood stunned. Police launched an investigation, but the shooter's identity remained unknown. No arrests were made at the time. The woman's name was not released, adding to the mystery surrounding the case. News of the incident spread quickly, especially since it occurred just before Dia de los Muertos, Mexico's Day of the Dead, a time when families honor their deceased loved ones. What was meant to be an innocent Halloween prank had turned into a heartbreaking event. Videos of the woman dressed as La Llorona wailing in the night quickly surfaced on social media. Some clips showed her moments before the incident, while others captured the aftermath. The footage sparked widespread debate about safety, fear, and how quickly situations can escalate. Many questioned if the response had been justified, or if the tragic outcome could have been avoided. The case also reignited discussions about the dangers of pranks that can be misinterpreted, especially at a time when fear and uncertainty can cause people to react unpredictably. Some pointed out that the deep-rooted cultural belief in La Llorona might have heightened the fear that night, making the situation even more volatile. As days passed, authorities continued their investigation, but no further developments were reported. The shooter remained unidentified, and the community was left with unanswered questions. Could things have played out differently if fear hadn't taken over? If the prank had been less unsettling, would the woman still be alive? This incident served as a tragic example of how quickly a joke can spiral out of control. A simple act meant to entertain turned into a devastating loss. While the woman's identity remained unknown, her story left an impact, reminding people of the fine line between harmless fun and unintended consequences. It was 2024 in Deshaipet, a small village in Kamareddy district, Telangana, India. Shivaraj, a 20-year-old snake rescuer, was well known in his community for handling venomous reptiles. He had learned the skill from his father, Gangaram, a seasoned snake catcher. Together they made a living by capturing snakes and releasing them back into the wild. But on this day, Shivaraj wanted more than just another rescue. He wanted to go viral. Shivaraj and his father had been called to remove a cobra spotted in the village. Instead of simply catching the snake, Shivaraj decided to record a video for social media. He had handled snakes many times before, but this time, he wanted to perform a risky stunt. After securing the 2-meter-long cobra, he took selfies with it before attempting something even more dangerous. He placed the snake's head inside his mouth, hoping the daring act would impress his audience. The entire event was filmed. In the video, Shivaraj is seen standing in the middle of a road, confidently holding the cobra as it struggles to escape. At one point, he folds his hands in a prayer-like gesture, runs his fingers through his hair.
Oh no. Well, cobras, those snakes are extremely venomous. They have specialized fangs to inject potent toxins. And those toxins are neurotoxins, which are toxins that attack the nervous system. Oh no. Their venom stops breathing and heartbeat. They can be deadly to humans without fast medical care. Oh my god. I think I can see what probably happened is it most likely bit him in the mouth. And then it injected toxin and he died.
He even gives a thumbs up to the camera. He seemed unaware of the real danger lurking just seconds away. The video lasted 44 seconds, but moments after the recording stopped,
What an idiot.
tragedy struck. The cobra, desperate to free itself, bit him inside his mouth. The venom acted fast, spreading through his system almost instantly. His father, who had been filming, rushed him to the hospital. However, despite their efforts, Shivaraj did not survive. The shocking footage quickly spread online, sparking outrage and disbelief. Many viewers were horrified, questioning why someone would risk their life for social media attention. Others pointed to the growing trend of young people attempting reckless stunts in pursuit of instant fame. Shivaraj and his father had built a reputation for their skills in handling dangerous snakes. But this time, the young rescuer's decision to turn his work into a spectacle led to devastating consequences. Despite his experience, he underestimated the risks. This wasn't the first time someone had attempted a dangerous stunt for social media. Just a few months earlier, in Andhra Pradesh, a man named Madhubabu Nagaraju had also provoked a cobra for over an hour, ignoring warnings from bystanders. The snake eventually struck, leaving him in critical condition. Fortunately, he survived, but his actions served as yet another example of how far people are willing to go for online attention. Shivaraj's tragic death has left his family and community in mourning. His father, who had trained him and recorded his final moments, now carries the heavy burden of knowing that the stunt meant to gain popularity instead took his son's life. The incident has sparked discussions about the dangers of social media pressure. In an era where online fame is high, highly sought after.
Nutella biscuits. The new crunchy golden biscuit with the creamy heart of Nutella. Nutella biscuits. A big heart. Some things are so special that you have to share them with loved ones. Nutella biscuits. The new crunchy golden biscuit with the creamy heart of Nutella. For those moments that just have to be shared. Nutella biscuits. A big heart.
That song that's playing in the background is called Symphony by Clean Bandit.
Nutella biscuits. The new crunchy golden biscuit with the creamy heart of Nutella. Nutella biscuits.
Alexander's a bean, I don't want to do this anymore. And longer so, and your heartbeat. And longer so. Oh yeah, I remember this guy.
A brand new product for the UK, Nutella biscuits. They're described as a crunchy golden baked biscuit filled with hazelnut spray with cocoa. Let's check them out. Actually, it's got
Alexander's a bean, and your heartbeat. And longer so, Alexander's a bean. And never mind. Just want to be part of your symphony. Did he go?
Many young people push limits without considering the real-world consequences. Authorities in Telangana have expressed concern over these growing trends. They plan to increase awareness about the dangers of handling venomous animals and performing high-risk stunts. Some have even called for stricter regulations regarding the handling of dangerous wildlife, especially in the context of social media. Shivaraj's story is a heartbreaking example of how far some are willing to go for views and likes. While social media can be a powerful tool, it has also encouraged extreme behavior in the pursuit of recognition. Shivaraj's final video may have gained attention, but it came at a terrible cost. His life was cut short, leaving behind grief, regret, and a lesson that should never be forgotten.
Yeah, you shouldn't risk your life like that just for views. I mean, come on.
It was March 9, 2023, in Donnybrook, Dublin. Tom MacDonald, a 92-year-old father of 5, had been living with his daughter, Ailbe, for over a year after his wife, Viola, moved to a nursing home. He had been diagnosed with dementia 5 years earlier, and his condition had recently worsened. That night, something unexpected happened. At around 3:30 a.m., Ailbe heard her father moving around the house. This wasn't unusual. Tom often woke up confused about the time and sometimes went to the kitchen to prepare food. Assuming he would return to bed soon, she waited. But after 20 minutes, when he didn't come back, she decided to check on him. In the kitchen, she found Tom standing by the counter, looking unwell. He told her he had eaten something and wasn't feeling right. When she looked at the bowl in front of him, she was shocked. His cornflakes were soaked in a purple liquid. It was washing detergent. Tom admitted he had eaten it. Ailbe, horrified, asked if he was sure, and he confirmed it again. He had already begun vomiting and complained of throat pain. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Ailbe immediately called for an ambulance. Tom's condition rapidly declined. Despite his protests, he was rushed to St. Vincent's University Hospital. Doctors sedated him to stabilize his condition, but the detergent had already caused severe damage. It affected his stomach and lungs, leading to breathing difficulties. By 8:50 a.m., Tom had passed away. The official cause of death was aspiration pneumonitis, a condition that occurs when harmful substances enter the lungs, causing swelling and breathing difficulties. The hospital contacted the National Poisons Information Center, but there was no antidote for the detergent. The damage was irreversible, and nothing could be done to save him. His family was devastated. Though Tom's dementia had been getting worse, he had still been relatively independent. He sometimes ate spoiled food, but no one had imagined something like this could happen. The detergent was stored in a cupboard far from the fridge, and Ailby never thought he would mistake it for something edible. Experts suggest that Tom's weakened sense of taste may have played a role in the accident. Dementia can affect a person's ability to recognize flavors and smells. As his condition worsened, he could no longer cook for himself and often ate whatever he found, even if it was unsafe. That night, confusion led him to pour detergent into his cereal, unaware of the danger. Tom's other daughter, Aisling, was shocked by how quickly it happened. One moment, he seemed fine. The next, he was gone. The family had been managing his dementia for years, but never anticipated this outcome. The inquest into his death showed the risks faced by dementia patients. People with advanced dementia can become disoriented and struggle to distinguish between everyday items and dangerous substances. This case shed light on the importance of taking extra precautions when caring for someone with cognitive impairments, especially in their home environment. Tom McDonald had lived a full life. He had served in the Defense Forces and later worked as an accountant. But in the end, a simple mistake led to tragic consequences. His family had been worried about his condition and the challenges of caring for him at home, but they never expected that something as routine as breakfast could lead to his death. The coroner ruled his passing as accidental and referred the case to organizations like the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland and the Health Service Executive to help raise awareness about the dangers dementia patients face at home. She noted that this was a rare case, unlike anything she had seen before, but one that could serve as a warning for families caring for loved ones with dementia. Would things have been different if the detergent had been stored in a more secure place? Could his family have done more to prevent this from happening? These are the difficult questions that are. While no one can turn back time, Tom's story shows the unpredictable risks of dementia. It's a reminder of how important it is to ensure the safety of those who struggle with memory loss and confusion, especially when it comes to household hazards. It was March 15, 2013, in Longmont, Colorado. 18-year-old Pramila Lal was an energetic and well-loved young woman. She had recently graduated from Niwot High School, where she was known for her talent in track and her outgoing personality. That Friday night, she was spending time with friends, unaware that a simple prank would end in tragedy. Pramila and her 12-year-old cousin decided to play a harmless joke on a close family friend, 21-year-old Narek Daniel Galley. Galley was at a rental home playing video games with Pramila's 15-year-old brother, Pranil. Unaware of the prank, the two boys were caught off guard when they heard strange noises coming from another room. Hiding quietly in a closet, Pramila and her cousin waited for the right moment. But as Gally and Pranil grew suspicious, they assumed an intruder was in the house. With the home nearly empty since Pramila's family was in the process of moving, there was no one else around. Then, at the worst possible moment, Pramila jumped out to surprise them. Startled, Gally panicked. In a split second, he grabbed a gun and fired. Pramila was hit. The shot was immediate. Her younger cousin, terrified, rushed to help. The group made a desperate decision. Gally and the two younger boys rushed Pramila to Longmont United Hospital, hoping to save her. Outside, a neighbor had heard loud yelling from the house. Realizing something was wrong, she and her husband called the police. By the time officers arrived at 8:02 p.m., the house was in chaos. The front door was open and confusion filled the scene. By 9 p.m., Pramila was gone. What started as an innocent joke had ended in an irreversible tragedy. Gally was arrested early Saturday morning. He faced multiple charges, including reckless endangerment and allowing a minor access to a firearm. Authorities found that the gun had been in the hands of Pramila's younger brother before the incident, something their parents had not permitted. A police search of the home revealed the gun still loaded, with a live round jammed near the ejection port. It had been left near the stairs in the living room, a haunting reminder of what had happened. Gally, who had no strong ties to the community, was considered a flight risk. He was held on a high bond as police worked with the Boulder County District Attorney's Office to determine if further charges would be filed. His attorney made no public statement. For Pramila's family, the pain was unbearable. Her father, Praveen Lal, spoke to reporters, struggling to process what had happened. He described his daughter as a ray of sunshine and admitted he was still in disbelief. Despite his grief, Mr. Lal did not express anger toward Gally. Instead, he showed remarkable compassion, emphasizing that while they had lost a daughter, they did not want anyone else to lose a son, especially due to an accident. The family was devastated, yet they did not want to see another life ruined by the tragedy. Pramila had been a bright presence in her community. She was popular, well-liked, and deeply involved in her school's cross-country team. After her passing, the track team organized a special meeting in her honor, celebrating her life and the impact she had on the around her. Longmont, once a small farming town, had grown into a modern tech hub, yet nothing in its history had prepared the community for such a heartbreaking event. The loss of Pramila affected everyone. everyone. As the investigation continued, many were left wondering how things had gone so wrong. Could this have been prevented if the prank had been called off? If the gun had been safely stored away? If Gally had reacted differently? What if Pramila had not jumped out at that exact moment? Would they have just laughed it off and moved on with their night? What if the family had decided not to participate in the prank at all? Would Pramila still be here, enjoying life as a young woman with a bright future? The community was left searching for answers. Answers that would never fully come. No matter what the legal outcome was, one truth remained. Pramila was gone, and for those who loved her, the pain of that loss would never fade.
No. Ding, 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 and your heart beats. Ding, ding, ding. And you kind of can see funny. Ding, 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 ding. Do 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 do.
You know when live TV goes wrong, it goes really wrong. These are the moments that make viewers gasp, cringe, or even reach for the remote. We're talking about accidents, shocking slip-ups, and downright disturbing incidents that unfolded right in front of the camera. It's raw, uncomfortable, and impossible to predict. If you think live TV is always under control, wait till you see this. This is 1 hour of most disturbing moments in live TV history. On the morning of February 18, 2023, 31-year-old Giovanni Mendoza Martinez was driving his 2021 Tesla Model S on California's Interstate 680. He had activated the vehicle's autopilot feature, trusting in Tesla's promises of advanced self-driving capabilities. His brother, Caleb, was in the passenger seat. Suddenly, the car crashed into a parked fire truck, leading to Giovanni's death and leaving Caleb with severe injuries. The tragic accident has led to a lawsuit against Tesla, with Giovanni's family arguing that the company misled customers about the true capabilities of its autopilot system. They claim Tesla and its chief executive officer, Elon Musk, promoted the technology as more advanced than it really was, giving drivers a false sense of security. Tesla, however, denies responsibility, stating that drivers must remain attentive and in control of their vehicles at all times. The accident happened in the early morning near the San Francisco Bay Area. Emergency vehicles, including a fire truck, were parked across 2 lanes of the highway with their lights flashing. Tesla's autopilot had been engaged for about 12 minutes before the crash. According to the lawsuit, Giovanni had not made any manual adjustments during this time. No braking, steering, or acceleration. The system failed to detect the emergency vehicles correctly, misinterpreting the scene and failing to react. The Tesla struck the fire truck at 71 miles per hour. Giovanni was found trapped in the driver's seat, while Caleb survived with significant injuries. 4 firefighters at the scene also sustained minor injuries. Tesla argues that the crash was due to driver error rather than any fault in the autopilot system. The company claims that their cars are designed to be safe when used properly, and that drivers are responsible for staying engaged while using the system. Tesla also states that any injuries from the crash were likely due to improper maintenance or use of the vehicle rather than flaws in the technology.